by one we will take you. The day the Equinox arrived, our pilgrimage began. 1,200 miles of cruise missile to our holy land. We're fucking stoked, unlike we've been since we were pimple pubeless teens.
Welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about Propagandhi. My name is Steven, and you may know me from the Night Letters / Note to Self bonus episode, and the more recent episode where I played bass for Husker Lou on a cover of Today's Empire's Tomorrow's Ashes, alongside Paul Hodgert and Matt Milkowski. This bonus episode is a Bangers Embrace episode, where we reminisce and reflect on our own personal Bangers Embraces, our stories of seeing the band live. But today is not the story of any of my Propagandhi show experiences. No, I am here with Graziele, longtime friend of both the podcast and I. Graziele is an active member of Chris Hanna's A Catastrophic Break with Consensus Reality Patreon community, along with being an active member in the Unscripted Moments Discord group. Graziele has been a longtime fan of Propagandhi, but had never had the chance to see them live until the recent Reconstruction Tour that tromped through Europe, where Prop was joined by Pennywise, Comeback Kid, the Iron Roses, and Dead Pioneers. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Graziele, the front row queen, to the podcast. Benvinda, Graziele.
Hello, Steve. Thanks for having me. That's a very cool intro.
I did my best. I wanted to do you full due and glory for someone who I think, frankly, it's been surprising that you haven't been able to be on the podcast in voice before, just because I see you around all the time, and I just was always wondering why it never ended up happening. So I'm glad to be the one to make it happen.
Thank you. Yeah, that experience was very interesting for me. I only been in podcast once a few years ago. And okay, I think maybe try to push a bit my boundaries because I'm more like a backstage person. I like to see how things are done, but may kind of be in the front of the things that are just very out of my league. But yeah, thank you.
Oh, no problem. So, I guess first things first, I'll let you explain a little bit more about who you are and what you do, as Greg likes to say. So, Graziele, who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Graziele, but everybody calls me just Grazi. As I'm Brazilian, I lived my first 25 years in Brazil, and then I immigrated to Portugal in the end of 2021. So basically, nowadays I'm a music photographer in my free time. I also in a collective here that support local artists and also try to bring some bands in Porto. It's a city that I live here in north of Portugal. And I think I'm a professional fan of bands, and I spend a lot of time just nerding about Propagandhi and all the other bands that I love. And I also in my daily basis I have my office work. I'm a QA engineer basically. This is what I like supports me in living here and also following bands that I love. Then that's about me.
As you said, you're a massive fan of lots of bands, but obviously we're here to talk about a very specific one. So, we'll start it off like we start off a lot of other podcasts, I guess, around here, which is how did you first come into contact or discover Propagandhi?
Yeah, so for Propagandhi for me was circa 2017. I remember when Epitaph was doing a little bit of promotion on the Victoria Lab, was the first single of the also Victoria Lab record. That was a time for me because I always like hardcore and punk rock music, and I was digging into some metal bands. I was into Metallica, some of the European Viking metal bands, like Enziferum, Gojira. I was very into metal during that time. And when I first listened to Victoria Lab, that hit me very hard because it was a mix of a lot of things that I liked. It's okay, I think supposedly this is punk, but this is not just punk. This is way more than my ear can process now. And I remember starting to dig into old songs from Propagandhi, and this is a lot of lyrics that are not on my vocabulary as a not English speaker. And this is how it started for me. I think this is what clicked. And during the time I was very in a such rushed routine on going to university and also working full time. And I remember listening to a lot of Sandinista by The Clash and a lot of like what Joe Strummer from The Clash wrote in about like social justice was relating a lot to me. And this is like starting my obsession to propaganda. Is like, okay, those words resonate to me. I cannot understand a lot, but I think there's a lot of things that have make sense for me, and this all started for me.
That's super cool. So, I guess the Victory Lap LP would have been like your real first introduction. I mean, from there, I guess, did you work your way backwards chronologically, or did you jump around? Like, did you just kind of say, okay, well, let's jump into Less Talk More Rock, because you were more on like that very, you know, focused social justice angle, or was it more like, no, I just want to kind of go backwards through the metallic and then eventually get our way back to how to clean everything?
Yeah, definitely it was on Less Talk More Rock. I remember to starting to like research about the band and reading all the things that made on Less Talk More Rock as controversies, with a lot of quotes.
Hmm.
But we all know that how that resonated in the 90s for the scene. And of course, like seeing the cover of the record for me was like, okay, this band is playing out everything like they believed, and is what matters for me in the moment, and what resonates for me. And then when I started to listen to Let's Talk and also Nation States, in that moment I was like discovering what imperialism what meant to the world, and I was like, yeah, this is the type of rage that is inside of me that I didn't know where to direct to, and it's starting to understand exactly like those, the enviness of the world, especially when you're like transitioning from being just a teenager to studying to like a worker and a student. So like when you start to understand like, okay, this is how life is gonna be for the rest of my life, and this is gonna be the injustice that I'm gonna be facing as a worker, as a student. And yeah, I think understanding ourselves also as persons in the world was something that resonates for me when I dig back to the like their very first records and how to clean up everything, and also the Let's Talk. And all the rest was like the part of like liking metal during that age was just secondary, but it was like a huge bonus. Like this is a perfect both worlds. It's great music, great lyrics, and the message is something that's building on me, something that like, okay, I understand this as a me, as values, as things that I believe. And yeah, this is like what built it up on me when I started like digging up on the very first records.
Hmm. Well, okay. So you started with Victory Lap and worked backwards, but now we're in an age where we can say, okay, now we're working forwards. I discovered Propagandhi through supporting cast, and then Failed States came out. You discovered Prop through Victory Lap, and now At Peace has come out. So, I mean, what's that like? How do you think? What do you think of the new album?
Yeah, the new album is great. It was like some as a moment that I was expecting to live for a long time, like to see a record made by them being released, and all all that momentum before the release. That everybody was like, "How's the record's gonna be?" Was a little like type. Like little clues they leave on the way regarding the new album. So it was something very very cool to like see, especially on the unscripted moments community. And yeah, and I recall like the first time that I listened to the album, the very first track, Guiding Lights. I was like, yes, that's what I was expecting. Like, everybody build like have their own expectations to the music. That's completely normal. I didn't know exactly what I was expecting. I knew there was something really hard was gonna come for on this new record, and I had like huge goosebumps on the very first track. For me, it was a easy album to digest. I know that like not every new release from other bands that I like was something that in the very first listen I was like, okay, I really like the record. But for Propaganda, it was very easy, and was more like getting used for some elements they use in songs, like stargazing. I really liked like the experimental that they did there, and also like brand new songs for my songs and lyrics for my vocabulary, because like I said, Propaganda is the type of band that put really new words in my vocabulary, and that's like fun in a way as a non-English speaker primarily, and also like a lot of learning. So this is great, and I really love it. A piece I think is an album that I like from the start to the end. And yeah, something that it's an album that I've been listening every day religiously, basically.
Yeah, I feel the same. I actually remember the day it came out. I, was sitting up here late, just working on some paperwork or something for my day job, as it were. And you know, I it came out. I put it on, listened to it like 3 times in a row. Woke up in the morning, the whole Discord was alight with people's first takes.
Hmm.
I remember I logged onto the voice chat and it was you and Paul Hodgert, and we basically were all just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! It's like really slow, but it's really cool. That riff and guiding lights is so good, etc., etc." That was a really fun, special moment that hadn't happened for basically 8 years. And I sure didn't have like this like interconnected group to celebrate a release of a band with, which I found really rewarding and lovely. I mean, we say it it comes up very often on the podcast, but the community that's built up around this podcast and the band is just amazing. Yeah, I'm glad that got to experience it with you and everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. And you were the type of person that waited for the whole record to come out to listen to everything, or you listened for the very first singles
I was
came out?
I was a singles guy. I couldn't wait, unfortunately. But by the same token, I mean, I was just so stoked. I had
Mhm.
been in a bit of a prop drought and a music drought in general. So that was a good injection of life into my veins, as it were. Were you a singles or are you a waiter? Somebody tells me you're a waiter.
Yeah. No, I listened to the singles, and
Okay,
I found very solid the selection of the first singles before the release. And yeah, I could not wait. I had to listen to the music. Yeah.
fair. That's fair. So, the main event today is we're going to be talking about your Banger's Embrace, reverse Banger's Embrace. I don't know what to call it, but basically, on the recent Reconstruction Tour, where a lot of these at peace songs were first debuted live, you, for the first time seeing the band in typical Grashi fashion, saw them like 6 times in a row. Just did an absolute reverse tour with them. You
Yeah.
went through Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Of 6 dates I'm seeing here, you met and hung out with a lot of people that, people who listen to the podcast here very often might know. So I'm excited to hear that story, but I wanted to say one thing where after the first day, or the first show, you had posted all your front row pictures and you were very excited. I could feel the vibrations through social media as you were posting everything. And I sent a little chat to you and I said, "No, I'm really happy. I know you've been waiting for this for a long time." And you replied back, uh, "I cannot believe I get to see this band 5 more times in as many days, basically." And I already feel like my soul is washed. And I believe that's a translation, a turn of phrase.
Hmm.
But I absolutely love that because I can relate to the feeling to seeing a band or doing something with a friend or what have you, and just feeling like your soul has been washed. Can you talk about that a little bit more before we get into the show?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Like I went to this all travel for the touring with the only expectation to be there and fight for the front row because I never been to that many concerts in a row. My maximum was four, and we even with that I was like, okay, I'm gonna be chill for the 2 next days because I don't know if I had the energy. And every day felt like the first day. That was something I was reading on my journal notes. Like I always had that butterfly is in the stomach every single concert. It was not just the first, and that's very magical. And yeah, like definitely was a moment that I was waiting for so long in my life. See them in like live, because like in the past I never experienced like that much concerts in my life. In Brazil, like so busy working and studying at the same time that I didn't have time to attend concerts, especially bigger ones or international bands. And when I moved here, like I had this thing on like going for concerts as my thing. And was very very magical. To like a lot of songs that I listened in like on my moments here at home. It was just like songs that I liked that hit way harder in the concert. And yeah, like I ended up that very very happy that I made it to everything, and I had other energy, and I had the same feeling all night.
Nice. That's fantastic. So, I guess without further ado, I mean, tell us about your personal bangers embrace, the six stops, everything in between, who you met, who you saw. I know, again, like we're going to see a few cameos from people who've been on the podcast before. So, I'm just going to pass it off to you, and you're good to go.
Yeah, so everything started in that city that I think is Berendrecht in uh, Belgium, and it's close to Antwerp. I believe that Berendrecht is like a district of Antwerp. And I've been that region before because they have a really nice fest called Black Rock. Been 2 times in the previous years, and so it was a familiar place for me. But in somehow I was very like happy that I was there because I was familiar with the place. I knew how the transportation work, which is the like biggest struggle when you're traveling to somewhere we don't know. Um, yeah, like I said, my expectation was just being there and being the front row and singing as much as I can, like making eye contact with the band, because I think there's something very special when you're like in a concert and I don't know, not just the band, but the people like beside you and look at you and sing with you. And yeah, and I've been there. It was super, like it was raining a bit. It was outdoor concert, and on that day, I didn't meet anyone from any of the communities. I just like saw a friend that I knew previously from other concerts. And yeah, I was there not believing what my eyes were seeing, basically. And I remember not double checking the set list because I know, okay, for the very first, I want to be kind of surprised at what they're playing, but I had a very good feeling about the new songs they played. The Price Might Spray, Rented PA. They were great live, the way like better and like listening just in the headphones. And when they played Night Letters was a song that for me was like, okay, I understand where the song came from, but in person it hit way harder on me. Like I cried a lot on the first time that I listened. And I remember when I saw Todd in person, I was like, man, I couldn't believe that Night Lighters made me cry so much when I first listened in the concert. And yeah, it was great. And I was not expecting to meet the band right on the first concert. And when I left, I remember saw George. I was like, okay, George. And I was like super overthinking about this because my expectations was just go there, watch the concert, not necessarily meet the band because I don't know. I always portrayed musicians very busy. They're like when they're not playing, they're on backstage, working on other stuff and preparing for the next dates. And I just saw Jordan like, should I go? Should I leave it for another moment because there will be other concerts? And then my friends was like, okay, I think you should go, and because I don't know, you don't know if you're not gonna see them again. Then I was like super socially awkward as I am. And I was like, hi, George, my name is Grazi. Lifelong fan of the band. It means a lot for me, like everything that I just had in my head, because like I just want to thank them for the music that made a huge impact in my life. And then suddenly I saw Celine behind, and then Todd was like a bit far away, but I didn't bother him. And then Chris was a bit closer to me as well, but he was talking with another person. I was like, I'm not gonna bother him in the middle of the conversation just to like start to talk. And I remember having a very good conversation with George about mentioning the only first time they played in Brazil in 2007, which I believe was for the um, I don't think it was maybe it was Today's in Paris, Tomorrow's Ashes, like second leg of the tour, which was many years ago. And he was like talking about the experience, like he was rushed. They were like all traveling through South America because I believe they also play in Costa Rica as well. And then Chris was free from the conversation. It was like, "Hi, Chris. My name is Grazi. Love the music. The band means a word for me." And I was like, "Oh, you're Grazi." And then I think he recognized me from the Patreon, and it was good. And then I just like left. Like, I'm not gonna bother anyone else anymore. And then I like just walked back to the Antwerp Central where I was like staying, and had this moment to process everything, the music that I just listened live, and also the moment that I have with the band is like, that's unbelievable. Um, just from that date, I was very realized about traveling to see the band, and all the other days, like I said, every like few hours before the concert, I was like there, like, oh my god, I'm freaking out. There's like butterflies everywhere, just on my stomach, but in my mind as well. Like, even if I knew what they are gonna play, I was having that moment like, I'm gonna be surprised, and uh, it's gonna be great. Like, just the fact that I'm seeing this band live, and having Comeback Kid on that tour was great as well. Like, I had the opportunity to saw Comeback Kid before. Uh, but like having two bands that I really liked from the same region that somehow connected was very great. Uh, yeah, I think like that sums up pretty much the first date.
Hmm.
And in there in Wiesbaden, which was the second concert of my schedule, I had a very good opportunity to meet Ricard and also Nim from the Discord and also the Patreon. And that one I think was one of my favorite concerts because I was not there alone, and I could just turn to Ricard and Nim and like sing it together. I know that like can sound silly, just singing some songs with someone, but it was very special. And then seeing Ricardo interacting with Todd because it was like all the time just looking to the people in the barrier, and that was just amazing. And then all the conversations before and after the concert on like, oh okay, and talking about Propagandhi, the records that we like, the music that we like more, and then all the stuff that's gotten into Propagandhi and other bands related.
Hmm.
Um, that was very cool. It's hard to say bye to both of them, but I really want to like come back to Wiesbaden and have another concert with Nims as well, and then seeing Ricard again. And yeah, and then the other day was like the only free day between the six concerts that I had, and I decided to go directly to Cologne, which is like um, a very cool city in Germany. And I always see like people portraying the big cathedral there's that was like built like more than 500 years ago. So like it's very big historical building. And I remember like something happened on the way that I lost my train. Um, because I had all the things saved on my calendar, but with the time zone from Portugal, it was like just an hour difference, but it wasn't enough for me to like lost the train that I had scheduled. And I arrived like a bit later than I expected, but then the first thing that I did was went to this cathedral because like it's the thing that I must see. And when I went there, the first person I see is Chris was just walking around there and taking pictures of the inside of the cathedral, and I was like, I just wave it from afar because I didn't want like to bother them in their free time. And then I saw Celine also doing the same thing. Like also did the same thing and waving from far away, and then just walking across the church. I saw George and Todd, and they're like, "Oh, Gracie, you're like, oh, you're doing that." I was like, "Oh, just seeing the cathedral." And then I walked back and I crossed over with Todd again. It's like we're gonna up in the tower that they have there in the cathedral, which is very high. You wanna go with us? And I was like, oh yeah, I wanna go. Yeah, and the one interesting thing about this the stairs to go up to this tower is like 533 steps. So it's a lot. I remember being close to the lunchtime, so I was still like, I was a bit hungry, but I was like, I don't want to lose this moment. And going up, 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 and not having a orientation about how many steps were left. And I I just remember like I'm not gonna like fail or black out here in the middle of the stairs while I'm like hanging out with the band that I like, with the people that in the band that I like. And that also reminds me that I was like reading Chris notes after the tour and saying like I almost bailed going up on the stairs. Like everybody was a bit like wasted when we reached the top, but it was super cool.
That's fantastic. Before we get on to the rest of the stuff, I just want to comment on a couple things I saw here. I mean, first off, hanging out with Ricard and Nim, you're describing like a universal like going to a show with friends, vibe, right? Where it's even described in the very song "Bangers Embrace," where like Todd
Yeah,
grabs Chris by the shirt and screams "terminate" in his face right as Sacrifice starts
yeah.
playing, right? And it stands out to me because I think the beautiful part about a lot of Propagandhi songs, but Bangers Embrace especially, because it's so untied, to politic, which, is not a good nor a bad thing, but it highlights this quality of their music where it is personal, but it is also in a way how the personal can be universal, right? How this very little moment of your friend grabbing you and screaming, in your face the lyrics. How many times I've done that,
Yeah.
with my friends, that then gets extended to other songs, that hold even more gravity, in my opinion, like Without Love or Unscripted Moment, where you can think to moments in your life where very similar things have happened to you, and it really just like feels like this like tapestry of the universe, to get all big and sentimental about it. But I think that's just amazing to hear that's exactly what happened to you at the show.
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't even think about that line of Bangers Embrace because like I mentioned, I didn't have this thing on going to concerts before moving abroad. And something that I accepted for me was like I always go to concerts alone, and then I had my mom in there. Sometimes I meet people, sometimes I do not. But like I acknowledge the fact that there's people around me. They could reply to the fact that like I'm very excited. They could not because people react in their own ways. So having that concert with like people that I got to know because of the band was very interesting. So that was like very special because a lot of friends that I made on the way were because of bands that are like, that very simple childish thing of like, you like the same color as me, so we're gonna become friends.
Hmm.
But with Propaganda, it's very different, I feel like, because it comes with a lot of package. Like, okay, you like the band, so you're probably like into social justice. You're probably gonna be vegetarian. You're probably gonna like metal. You're probably gonna also like punk rock. So it's a very interesting way to like get to know people. But I think there's a lot of that which comes with the band that makes you stick with others, with each other, and that's why like it felt very special for me because like I was there with friends, people that like I care, and with the good feeling that a lot of people there were like caring about a lot of stuff. So that was like very cool to like to see and experience.
Yeah. The other thing I want to highlight is just how fantastic the interactions with the bands were for you. I mean on tour it's tough, right? You're tired, you're constantly meeting new people, everyone wants your time. I think a lot. I'm a big Rush fan, as everybody seems to know, especially
Hmm.
Paul Hodgert, who won't let me live it down. But
Hmm.
also, I don't shut up about Rush. So, I mean, I guess it's well earned. They have this song Limelight. I'm not sure if you're a fan of the band, but basically, there's a line. The whole song's about essentially how being famous is a blessing and a curse. And there's a line that
Hmm.
says, "I can't pretend that a stranger is a long-awaited friend." Um, Basically in reference to people coming up to you on the street saying, "Oh wow, you're Geddy Lee, you're Neil Peart, you're Chris Hanna. I've known you forever because you've shown so much of yourself through your music. Talk to me, give me your time of day." And that's not always something that
Hmm.
a band can do in their day to day life, especially on tour. So the fact that they were just so inviting and warm, is really cool. It's not something they have to do. I don't think it's against their nature. I think they're very warm and fantastic people. But by that same token, I think I just want to note that like that's really solid, and I'm glad that you got that experience because I'm sure one day if they're really tired, they could brush somebody off, and that may not feel so great. That's not to say that again, Chris or anybody owes anybody their time, but it is really cool
Mm.
when they do grant it to people because that's fantastic, and obviously it made a fantastic impression on you, which is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like I think I made my mind right when I left the place that I live for this tour because I was like, okay, and not everybody's not entitled to anyone's time and attention and stuff, and also you don't know like how someone is like dealing with those moments. Because I always like heard that touring is very is a struggle for the band, especially Propagandhi. And I know that the fact that they're coming here for Europe for a bunch of concerts is already like a lot. So it was a moment for me. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to be there, best that I can, and enjoy the most. But all the rest is gonna be a bonus. And also for me because I was like before I experienced that much of concerts in life, my brain was always portrayed having moments with the bands that you like in the Brazilian way because I always see people freaking out, crying, all that um, dramatization when you
Hmm.
like met people that like did a lot of things that you care about. And after the years, like meeting other bands that I like on the way, like I had this experience meeting Laura Jane Grace in a concert, and she was super chill in the counter at the bar, and I had this thought, I'm like, why everybody is so chill about presence? It's like this is another human being right there. So just be nice and uh, be nice like you would be with anyone else because in the end it's another human being right there. It's just someone that somehow crossed your life and made something that uh, is important and magical that you carry with you as like I had with Propaganda and their songs. Um, so yeah, like when I had talks with Todd, I always try to not go to the direction like, what about the song that you guys made about this and that? I was like, okay, I'm gonna have here a talk with Todd that's like I would have with a friend because this is like what I wanted for them. It's not like I just don't want to be here and having a moment with them because I'm a fan and like I'm not entitled to that. I just want to have a moment with them and talking like how's the weather, is their family back in Canada, and this is what I had and like memories that I will carry with me because just simple conversations that for me is like this is what about life is those connections that we have with people and those moments that are unscripted
Hmm.
and it just like resonates through years and stuff.
Yeah, I can't agree more. My heart is so full hearing you say that. That is fantastic. So I guess the next show was the Cologne date after this trek up the cathedral with the band. The day after, you see them again.
Yeah, the Cologne concert was very good, very solid. I remember being in front of the venue and also meeting Andrew from Comeback Kid and also talking to him. Like, he made me choose between Comeback Kid and Propaganda. It's like, so okay, you like both bands, what do you prefer? And it's like, this is the first time I'm seeing Propaganda. Obviously, you're gonna say Propaganda, but that doesn't like take out the importance of Comeback Kid in my life as well. And that was a fun thing to hear from him. But it was solid. It was great. People there were nice. Cologne is pretty. I never been there. That was the very first time. And yeah, concert was perfect. And I think that was the concert that I got a set list. There was one of the memorabilia that I got from the trip was one set list, and I think was from the Cologne concert.
Love getting a set list. Always so fun.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I love to collect set lists from concerts, and I was like, I have to get at least something to bring back from this trip, and the set list is perfect.
And then, well, so now we're moving on to Amsterdam. So it seems.
Yeah, so Amsterdam in Netherlands, another country, before two concerts in Germany. Uh, Amsterdam was in a venue called Melkweg. I think this is how it's pronounced. And most interesting venue I've been in my life because the stage is super tall. There's no barricade, so you're there in the front. Like you're gonna look up a lot,
Would
or
you
you're
say
gonna leave the concert.
that's interesting? Would you say, like, I don't know? I mean, it reminds me of a venue that we have in Toronto where I've seen Prop and other bands a few times, called Lee's Palace. So,
Mhm.
how tall is the stage? Would you say it was about, I don't know, like your forehead height, taller?
Like I'm 1.6364 centimeters. I don't know in US
No,
metrics,
that's fine.
but I think it was about 170, something like
170.
that.
Holy, okay.
Because I was just holding my hands like a child in the barricade because it was super tall. But somehow I was like glad to be there in the front because somehow people were still jumping from the stage, and I think that was one of the craziest one because there was a lot of people on the stage. And I remember seeing Chris being hit with his own microphone when someone got up.
Oh no.
And that there's a video on that on YouTube I was rewatching a few days ago. But yeah, that van was. I remember hearing from other people that was in the front with me that venue was like classic in Amsterdam. It was the very first time I've been in the venue. Was very cool. That stage was like something else that I never saw in my life, but it was cool. It was like no barricade concert.
Yeah, this anecdote of Chris getting bonked with his vocal mic is funny to me only because I remember a similar situation. It was the first time I had ever seen Propagandhi live, and
Hmm.
friend of the podcast Jen Fiorentino had opened up for them in Toronto. I think this might have been around the time when the her Without Love video cover had been released, and that put her on the
Hmm.
band's radar. And they asked her to open, and she played a few songs, including her Without Love cover. She's fantastic. I recommend checking out her album From Darkness to Light from that era. I think it's great. I think the whole thing through and through is just a fantastic album. But this is getting away from the point. The band plays Without Love during the set on the Failed States tour, and of course, Jen Fiorentino, somewhere in the pit, gets absolutely launched crowd surfing up to the up to the stage, and right at that little bit, what purpose did her suffering serve? Do 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 do. Right when that little guitar lick is supposed to come in, she just lands right on top of Chris's pedal board. All sound cuts out. He plays the riff. It doesn't
Oh,
work. She like looks at him like very sorry. He's like says it's no problem. She jumps back out. Hilarious. I love those little moments, and it seems like Chris just is a magnet for it. I guess at this point, that's unfortunate for him, but that's what you get being a frontman.
yeah, I think this is the universe somehow sending some things to push your boundaries because, like, sometimes you just want to mind our own business and doing your thing, and then like, okay, let's deal with this something that you struggle, maybe deal with people or social interactions, and then bun, it happens, and it's what happens when we meet them a lot in concerts, like. Darren just in the front. I remember that in the very first concert, there was a person on my side saying that really wanted to listen they to play Anchorless. And I was like, yeah, that's a good song, but I don't have expectation for it, but I really hope they play. And yeah, and other people like having their own reactions to it. Drunk people, I'm very hard on identifying drunk people. Like some, especially like socially drunk, and like they come and start to talk with you, and they're like, okay, I'm not sure, and yeah, those moments are just interesting to happen.
Yeah. So we got two more, both in Germany. It sounds like I'm just gonna let you burn right through all the way to the end of Berlin.
Yeah, yeah. Then I went back again to Germany. Like I maybe didn't mention that, but like I did all of this touring by train. Like this area in Europe was like have very good connections. So like I had a lot of fun myself doing all those trips by train and also planning. I think I really like the planning part on like seeing, okay, where did I go? Where are the connections and stuff? And I think the longest trip was between Amsterdam and Hamburg that I had to do a connection in a city that I don't recall the name. And it was during the Father's Day in Germany. So like there was the lines were very busy. And Father's Day in Germany is a very interesting holiday, especially in the north. Like a lot of group of dads, they hang out together and they drink. So there was a lot of people drinking on trains, and that was interesting to see and be there. And again, Hamburg and the docks, another like historical venue that I heard before from other concerts, but didn't have the opportunity to be there before. I've been in Hamburg once, but not for this specifically. And yeah, I remember arriving very late. On my schedule, I always try to be like in front of venue at least an hour before the doors to opening, not the doors band. Haha, a joke.
Ooh.
And I learned that from Paul. I can blame him.
Oh, Paul
And,
would, man. That is such a Paul thing to do. Okay, I'm sorry. That's, man, we can't escape him. The true heel of the Discord.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it was like that on and off raining, and I think this is expected for north of Germany in Hamburg specifically. And I remember meeting Andrew again. It was like, hey, Graziele from afar, and then like I think we're talking about their South America tour that is just I think it's just done at this moment, but it was very cool like to hear from him like how the band was excited to play in South America. And then I remember seeing Todd again. It's like not gonna bother him a lot, and then I saw Meta Sweeper, which I believe his name is Robin, who is one of their stage managers
The
and
legendary Metal
technician.
Sweeper. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I'm so happy to meet you in person. Saw so many videos. Unfortunately, he didn't did his appearance on the concert set. Yeah, that was a cool moment to meet him and also David that was like working in the merch stand all night. I remember crossing with, being in and then it's like this is concert number and it was like I think I saw I told him the wrong number, so like 3, but it was actually the number 5. But it was cool seeing like cheering me on that moment.
Oh.
And Hamburg was very cool. I remember being in the barricade and listening some people speaking Portuguese, and then was a couple that lived in Hamburg, like doing being students there, and they're like, we are lifelong propaganda fans as well. It was very cool, like exchanging some words with them. Unfortunately, I didn't exchange a contact, but I remember recommending a lot of bands here from the scene in Portugal to them, and they were like very happy with the list that I made. And they talking about their like previous experiences as well, like the last time they saw them in the Victoria Lap tour, and how glad they were as well with the band and like all the things that like getting to know the message on the songs and how that like helped them on open their minds to stuff. That was like something that I could relate and was very happy to hear from them as well. And also having that moment, like I know they're like with strangers for me that I just know them in that day, but having the moments like when the band was there playing and then looking at them and like looking at me and singing together, that was super cool. And that day in Hamburg as well, I met Scott, which is in the Patreon as well. I think he lives in the US, and he was also coming for some of the concerts in that European tour. It was very cool to experience that with him as well, exchanging a lot of words regarding the band and all of our experiences about liking the band. So it was very cool. And then I remember like after the concerts, we're going for like a kebab around, which is the most after concert in German thing. And yeah, and then after that, I went for Berlin, which was the last concert of the tour, and also very symbolic for me. I really like Berlin; it's one of my favorite cities in Europe, and also a lot of my friends live there, and my Brazilian friends, and also one of my best friends that live there as well. And one of those friends, we usually meet for concerts. We saw No Effects together last time. It was a very great opportunity to be with him in that moment. And in Berlin, I also had the greatest opportunity to meet John, which is also from the Discord and from the Zero Cost band.
Hmm.
I remember some of her appearances here in the podcast as well. Listen to his band music, very great. And yeah, the last concert could not be way better than in Berlin. And for me, was perfect, like to be in the city that I liked, and also being the last point of this tour. Um, I remember that venue also the first time I've been there. Huxley's. The concert was supposedly to be in another place called Zitadel, which is a venue that I've been before for especially for the punk in Dublix. And it's a very interesting place, like in the middle of a park with like the the pit is basically soil. So when people start to mosh pit, like a cloud of dust comes up, and I
That's
believe
so
that's like
wicked.
a huge. I believe there's a huge complaint from the bands because that flying where you're singing might be not fun.
Hmm.
And I remember every time leaving that venue, also like super dirty because of this flying around
Hmm.
when people are dancing. And yeah, and I think the promoters changed it to this other venue, which is closer to Center City, Berlin. And I remember sitting there in barricade with John, and I was like having the same thought of like, I don't believe this is like the last concert. It always feels like the first. And I can believe like I'm gonna be experiencing this for the last time in a while. But there's a lot to recall from it, and be very thankful about the attention and that I had from the band, the love for everybody. And I remember just looking by the end of like the venue and seeing Andrew from Comeback Kid again. And I was like, I'm not gonna wait for them to notice me this time. I'm gonna come up to him and just say thank you for all the moments, because I also didn't know if I was gonna meet like Todd and Chris and Celine and Jordan again on that concert. So it's like it's gonna be my way to like pinpoint the moment of like saying all the words that I had in my heart, like thank you for the music, thank you for the attention and love that I got from these last days, and he being very happy about it. And he mentioned that in the last concert in Hamburg, he was watching Propagandhi play because he also likes Propagandhi, and also seeing me from the barricade and say like, you were rocking there in the barricade all nice. They were super nice to see. And yeah, that made my day. It was like this being noticed in this way by Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, real sees
And
real, as they say.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, another night I was there, like very happy from listening to all the songs, and they just the song just like touching my heart in the way that not that I expected, but in the way that I always felt about the songs listening all through these years, and that was very great. And when it ended, I just remember going outside and breathe because it was super warm there as well. And then seeing Jeremy from Comeback Kid, and I was like, "Hi, Jeremy, that was very great concert." And it's like, "Oh, you're Grazi, you're coming from a lot of concerts this tour." Oh, yeah, I think someone told you, and it was very great to saw him. Not the first time that I met Jeremy, I met him in another concert from Comeback Kid previously. Very very nice guy, and yeah, and from that day. That was the last one from the tour. Uh, just I ended that just still like not believing in everything that happened, and just thinking that was a very good dream, and like for a long time I was like experiencing genuine happiness, and I was like coming back to Portugal super happy about that week. And like was way more than I expected, was way more than I planned it, and it was very, very good and like very warm hug to the heart as a fan and also as a person.
I mean, that what more can we want from from music, right? I mean, I think that's the perfect way to kind of end this conversation. I mean, that's what I was always drawn me to music and other types of art, but especially music is just that way that it, you know, connects me to everyone around me when I'm on a dance floor or at a show. But it also connects me to, you know, other people's lived experiences through the song and the lyrics. Um, what more can be said, and what more can be expected from, you know, an absolute banger 6 day reverse tour alongside one of your favorite bands of all time, if not your favorite band of all time.
Yeah, yeah, I have memories from that week almost like every day since that happened. And it always bring me a lot of different reflections on life and stuff. It's very great. I think like I said, there's those things that happen here and there that's just like can be universe pushing your boundaries in a way that like you have to, or just an experience life how should be, because there's a very different mentality that you have on your vacations and also when you're like in day-to-day work, because they're like, oh, I have to work because I have to, and also have to pay bills, and there's a lot of weird stuff happening in the world. And having that isolation bubble, in a way, like I don't like the word bubble, but it's like somehow it is, because isolated from work and all the bad things, bad thoughts, uh, was just a great way to experience life, and like, and all the other learnings that come from that. It was just like plus, and yeah, something that I'm carrying with me with a lot of like love and good thoughts on it. So like that was very great to experience.
Yeah, yeah, that's that's really it. You got to take the good times as they come. So before we wrap up, I'd like to kind of tie two ends of time very neatly, as it were. And I would like to ask one more thing, which is, out of all the Propagandhi tracks talking about washing your soul, which one, out of all their entire catalog, can you reliably turn to on a bad day to really make your day a better one?
So will be interim report. Um, I think that song somehow brings like a good thought on me along with unscripted moments, because I think when things happen, we are so like, especially for me personally, that I have this thing on like I plan things and it should work in the way that it is. So like something happened differently, like it's very hard to deal with the like adjusting the plan and like getting those things that happen on the way, and okay, what I can do with that, and a path can I follow with these things happen, and that like it resonates for me a lot in life. Like I never planned to be in Portugal, but somehow this is the way that things went, and this also happened for me on experience things that I never thought I would experience, especially like talking about propaganda, because like the time that I've been living in Brazil in my hometown, like I was like I never had expectations on seeing bands that I like, because I live in a small town, was far away from the big city, so like nothing happens, and they are very far away in another continent. It's like, and things happen. Like okay, suddenly I had the opportunity to move to Winnipeg, which is a story that I love to repeat on the Discord community. Like for a while in my life, I almost moved to Winnipeg because of work, and
Mm-hmm.
like it didn't work out, but it's something that I like to think about back as like, okay, life could be differently. Not that I don't regret that, but it's really cool to have this thought of like how life could be, and also all the other things that that happened in the future that made me to be where I am right now. And yeah, I think that's like my thoughts are going all away, and I'm starting to like bring in the conversation to a whole other topic. But yeah. General will be that.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's unrelated at all. I think it's exactly that. I think all of this ties together because you don't know where life's going to take you, but it can take you to a lot of places. And like you said, you got to take the good times and the bad times as they come. And when those good times come, really look around and just soak it in because I mean, what more can we ask for in this life than good times with friends and experiencing where we are in just an honest and open way?
Yeah. That's like I mentioned about the duplicate keys Ikuro, the Eating Ring report. Like, I really like how Chris portrays the like alternative realities that happen in life,
Hmm.
and you know, the things will still roll. The nature will be there. Like as long as us as human beings was like will make these things to work. So yeah, there's like two songs that even they like have a bit of like a way more reflective aria. I think that puts me on my place. Like remember about myself and even if like I don't have a purpose on life, like in general, it brings me to reality and to think about things.
Yeah, this was a fantastic conversation, Grassy, and I'm so glad to be the one to finally get you on record after so much time hanging out together online and sharing so many things like our cute cat pictures on the Discord. Everybody, please join up. If
Yeah.
you have cute cats, we want you here because we don't have enough, even though we are swimming in cute cat pictures. So thanks so much, Grassy. It's fantastic to hear your very first Bangers Embrace.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for allowing me to share the experience. I really like the community that built around Propagandhi. It's like one of the nicest things ever. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and buy Greg's book.
Yeah, buy Greg's book, give to your friends and stuff.
All right. Thanks so much and have a good one, Gracie. Thanks for listening to this episode of Unscripted Moments. Gracie can be found at Gracie Doogie and at XFootageX on Instagram. She is also a team member in organizing at manifesto.fanzine and is a member of at Grim_Unity, which advocates for local artists and shows in Porto, Portugal.
When the music died